Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday. Welcome, everybody. How's it going? Derry Bennett, chilling until turkey time, indeed. Today is, this week is a short week, so that's good. Heat, how's it going? Waiting for the BBC Doctor Who 60th anniversary special. I think Biden can win 2024, but he needs to take the moderate centrist vote. He needs to make Pluto a planet again. Okay, so that's where this conversation started. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Pluto's gone, okay? Michael Hassner, how's it going? Just messing. I've got a stuffy nose, so... yeah. We'll see how that plays out. It's been bothering me all day. Alright, folks, we gotta get this show started, because today is a, today and tomorrow I'm gonna try to make this, a limited show. I'm gonna try to keep to the schedule. Thank you, Alio, for the 20 biddies, and thank you, Heat, for the 13 biddies. That's a total of 23 in one shot. Thank you. Sounded a bit sick? Well, hopefully not. We'll see. Yeah, I gotta preserve my voice. Alright, let's get this show started, folks.
This community and this plant was dead on arrival when I was elected president. You know, we've watched in the last 20 years 65 plants close with no action. It's been the story of the working class in this country for decades, and we've got to stop it.
The Belvidere Chrysler plant is shutting down once again. Employees have already faced several closures this year.
Union workers are angry this morning after learning that they're losing their jobs at an Illinois Jeep plant.
In March, over 1,000 auto workers at a Stellantis-owned Jeep plant were laid off and their factory shuttered. Workers were given one option: relocate to another plant or lose your job.
We had people crying in the plant, upset. We've had people transfer to our plant. We saw the devastation that created. Now here we are, we're in that same boat. We're gonna have to move somewhere. It was awful.
I've already gone through.
Yeah, and like you can't just tell people like, okay, so the only choices you have are to like pick up and leave or like you're fired. That sucks. Do you have a lemon, honey, to aid the vocal cords? My voice is my voice is okay. It's mostly just sniffles. That's really annoying me.
One plant closing, I don't know how I would have done another one, having to move my whole family to who knows where or to anywhere.
But for the first time in American history, an auto factory slated for closure is reopening.
Tens of thousands of workers at Jeep maker Stellantis will soon be returning to work as the company has agreed to a tentative agreement with the United Auto Workers Union.
Things seem impossible until someone's willing to fight for them and prove that it's not.
It's bringing life back where we were dead in the water.
It's probably going to be the best union meeting I've ever given. It was fantastic. People were hooting, hollering, crying, calling people saying, hey, I don't have to move. We get to stay here. You guys get to come home.
To understand how workers are taking back power from greedy corporations, we went to Belvidere, Illinois, where manufacturing jobs are coming back to America for the first time in decades. The Belvidere assembly plant has been an essential part of this small town in Illinois since 1965, at one point employing 6,000 workers, nearly a fifth of the population.
Well, with Belvidere, like you see, we sit in the middle, like kind of nowhere, and it's unlike on the East Coast or maybe the West Coast where it's a lot of population. So that this plant means a lot to this community, to the mom and pop shops, to business owners, to everyone.
Ahead of contract negotiations with the United Auto Workers this year, Stellantis announced that all production would be halted at the plant by March.
It was upsetting, but people, still did their job. They came in, tried to keep the best outlook, but still the stress, the weight on their shoulders just before the holidays, knowing that 2 months after the holidays, the plant's gonna be done. The last time you walk out of that plant may be the last time. Reopening, I had hope, I had faith. What changed it for me is we had the elections going on for the international executive, and seeing Shawn Fain, and we knew we had somebody that was gonna fight the fight.
People said that what
Nice.
he wanted was too much. People said that he was too militant. And I think what he proved is that those things are not bad things. They're actually good things. To aim really high, to believe.
Yeah, when you're trying to negotiate, especially why is that never said about the CEOs? Why is that considered a good thing when a CEO plays hardball? They say oh, he's a hardball CEO. But when the workers want to play hardball and really put the squeeze, then that's a problem. They get put as the bad ones, right? What do you expect from capitalists, Drew?
That what the members deserve is what you should actually fight for.
We get to be part, one of the only plants that ever opened back up after being slated for closing. Just the simple strategy, the fact that they fought for us, it was crazy.
Shawn Fain was sworn in as UAW president on March 26, and since then has been making headlines around the country. Before becoming president, Fain worked as a negotiator during the 2009 Chrysler bankruptcy and saw firsthand how union leadership failed workers.
It was basically just, you're going to either take this agreement or be liquidated. It was a colossal failure on the top leadership of our union. They took a handshake and a promise, which we know how those things end up.
We were fighting against corporate greed. Their CEOs getting millions and millions while we get nothing. It's not right. We're the ones that are building the vehicles that allow the companies to make the money that they make, and they treat us, pretty poorly.
Fain vowed to change course as head of the UAW.
When I came into office just 7 months ago, nobody thought we could accomplish what we've accomplished. Reopen Belvidere? Forget it. Win a just transition to EV battery work? It's impossible. We not only...
Bubba based. This dude's based. It's rational for them to demonize workers because it can protect profits no matter how wrong it is. Yeah, 100%. I don't disagree at all.
Save Belvidere, bringing back assembly jobs, we went even further. We secured over 1,000 battery jobs for Belvidere with a minimum floor where the wage will be over $30 an hour by 2028, which gives us the opportunity to bargain for that in 2028.
Once sworn in, Fain got to work gearing up for a stand-up strike, a process whereby only a select number of strategic locations are called upon to walk out.
In 2019, people were striking, but they really had no idea what the hell they were out there for. So we wanted our membership to get rallied around our issues. We knew, in all likelihood, we'd have to strike to get the things we were asking for, and we wanted the membership to be prepared for that. It gave us a lot of leverage, a lot of levers to pull. I mean, we could amp up the pressure if we wanted to. We could reward companies if they were moving in the right direction, and we could punish the ones that weren't. And It really unfolded perfectly.
Bro, this guy's a master. This guy's a master. Yeah, I mean, like, just reading the headline, I can tell you that it's a byproduct of unionization is that even non-union workers always get benefits from unions regardless. I mean, this is a phenomenon that happens just as a byproduct of unions existing, and their victories are everybody's victories. Because it raises the standard, right? Yellow King, how's it going? Nice. Very nice. Non-union workers can thank the UAW for the recent pay raises, said the automotive manufacturing expert Sam Fiorini of Auto Forecast Solutions to Yahoo Finance. It was entirely expected that wages would go up in the face of recent labor changes. There's no reason for Toyota, Honda, and the rest, and Nissan and the rest to raise their workers' pay except for the pressure put on them from the union. Nice. Based. This is why you should support unions and why you should support strikes, even if you're not completely directly involved, because it does benefit you. Just the fact that unions exist, by definition, benefits all workers. And it should inspire other people to join or form unions as well. I don't mean to sound like a socialist, but the CEO and board of directors need to share profits with the workers. Without the workers, there's no company. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sounding like a socialist, right? The workers, after all, do make... the workers produce the labor, or produce the value of the company. Period. Full stop. If there was no CEOs tomorrow, the workers would still be there to make the products, right? If a CEO didn't exist tomorrow, the company would still go. It's not like a position that is as valuable as the worker position, right? I just watched John Oliver's recent segment on dollar stores. They need to unionize for real. Yeah, like the dollar store in particular is horrible. Horrible. The conditions are really bad. The pay is abysmal. They literally have like one person basically doing everything. Like, have you ever been to a dollar store and there's like no one at the front? There's like literally just like one person stocking and being cashier and just kind of handling everything for like pennies on the dollar effectively. They pay basically just like minimum wage. Yes, we all know this, but we didn't know it until now. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I worked at a dollar store exactly in those conditions. Yeah, I don't doubt it. So much stuff happened. Yeah, because like, what is one super underpaid employee going to do exactly? And even if, like, you shouldn't really give a crap. Anyways, regardless. There's a dollar store on the same street as me. I think they seem to have like 3 or so workers in there. That's a lot more than that's lucky. Welcome, Echo Wrestler Dragon. I mean, workers with only 25, maybe 25%, while CEO and board of directors 500 more. Very unfair unless the CEO and board of directors risk their credit. Yeah, but the problem is that what do you think the workers are risking? They're risking their livelihood too, right? So that doesn't really make any sense. Because if the CEO and board of directors just happen to also be investors and they lose investments, you know what happens? They just go and invest in other stuff, right? If a worker loses their job, they lose everything. So who has the most? Who has the more risk? Who has the more meaningful risk? A person who, if they lose their job, they could lose their house, everything. They could get their car repossessed if they're still paying it off. Versus someone who made like a investment and lost, and then just moved on and made another investment or whatever, became the CEO of another company. Who's really taking the risk? Does that make sense? No way a CEO works as much as a worker. True. Retail pays almost nothing, just killing legs and bodies. That's why left banks pay more, and that's terrible politics there also. Yeah, I mean, corporate design or corporate systems are always going to be pretty abysmal. That sucks. I worked at a department store, got ripped off. I caught the perps, but they didn't do anything to them. Dang. One second, folks. A $25 certificate? Wow. Yeah, so corporations are not your friends. Capitalists are not your friends. So, yeah.
But there was another key piece to getting this plant reopened. Help from political leaders in state and federal government.
It would be very different if the former president was in it.
When he was president, automobile factories closed. When I've been president, they've opened.
Look at Lordstown, Ohio, Lordstown Assembly. He was president then, and we saw what happened there.
A large American factory stopped production today after more than half a century. 1,600 workers at the General Motors plant in Lordstown, Ohio are affected by this.
And it would be the same story here at Belvedere. In 2019, GM workers were on strike for 40 days. Never heard from him, never heard a word.
He has no respect for unions, never has, doesn't think they make sense. I believe unions not only help bring a fair wage and work conditions for the employees who work or the union members, but it spreads beyond unions. I've invested in America. In Americans, not send jobs overseas, but find cheaper labor to send products back here. We're making jobs here and sending product overseas.
The federal government and the state of Illinois gave Stellantis incentives to reopen and expand their operations in Belvedere. Workers also got an important assist from the president himself.
3 weeks in office, I get a call from President Fain's office saying, hey, I want you to meet with President Biden tomorrow. President Biden kind of walked to me and said, Matt, come here, let's talk about Belvedere and Local 1268. I couldn't believe it. Lost for words.
Biden looks like he's falling asleep all the time. Sleepy Joe. Donald Trump gave corporations a huge tax cut. Yep, while many people think Illinois, they think Chicago. But there's a lot of factory workers in Illinois. The CEO corporations also have created conditions that make people desperate, so people accept worse pay and worse conditions to avoid homelessness, and even that isn't enough to prevent homelessness, hunger. Yeah, it's part of capitalism requires a capitalism requires a certain amount of homelessness, right? Capitalism requires a certain amount of unemployment. That's just the nature of how capitalism works. And kind of part of that cycle is to lay out the conditions so that people become desperate, because it's a mean of control. It's a means of control.
Yes, well, what can I do? Well, make some calls, anything. We could take the help, all the help we can get.
And I see the future here in Belvedere. Belvedere Assembly Plant was the beating heart of this community for nearly 6 decades, just like it was back in Delaware, where I was raised.
He's going to be the oldest president ever, isn't he? He is the oldest president, isn't he? He is the oldest president already. Oh, yeah, he is. Biden is already the oldest president in history. He made it. I guess he's going to break his own record.
That's why I personally brought it up with Mark Stewart, the head of North American Stellantis. Meanwhile, the UAW fought like hell to get these jobs back. And now you've secured nearly $5 billion in new investment to bring thousands of jobs back to Belvedere.
The impact of the Belvedere Assembly Plant's reopening is hard to underestimate. Thousands of jobs coming back to the community, families reunited, and a sense of pride reestablished in a place so many call home.
Businesses will flourish again, places will reopen.
If we would have shut down, it would not only have devastated Belvedere, but all the surrounding cities like Rockford, Roscoe, all of those other cities that depend on Belvedere. So it only didn't save Belvedere, it saved the whole community, the whole area.
I'm excited for our up-and-coming brothers and sisters.
It was just his birthday. Yeah, wasn't it his birthday just this past Monday? Not Reagan? No, he's literally Biden is literally the oldest president. Oh, yeah, Monday was yesterday. Yeah.
We're going to breathe life back into a community, and it's something that's never been done before, to open up a plant and to help
Pete with the
jobs
13
here
biddies. Thank you
in
so much. I appreciate that.
America.
Thanks for watching.
Cool. All right, let's turn our attention to the phenomenal meme that is happening at the twitter.com. So, just to give you like a TLDR, and we kind of pointed this out. We kind of pointed this out, that Elon Musk is not just the Nazi reply guy, but he's just unironically just agreeing with Nazi shit. And as expected, there's been a huge backlash, and Twitter is bleeding advertisers left and right. He's the oldest president at the end of his tenure was Ronald Reagan. This distinction will eventually fall on Joe Biden. Yes, so he is the oldest president. Joe Biden is the oldest president. Yes. Alia with the 12 biddies. Jeez, you guys are on fire today. Thank you so much for all the support. Jesus. Elon's just Donald J. Trump invents slightly more. No, Elon doesn't invent shit. Just to be clear, Elon doesn't invent jack shit. Elon doesn't do anything.
Elon Musk is not a very happy person right now, and that's because he is hemorrhaging money as we speak with major companies like IBM, Lionsgate, Apple, Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount Global, NBC Universal.
Jesus. Yeah, and like I'm pretty sure that he's probably gonna talk about this, but Elon is trying to file a thermonuclear lawsuit against Media Matters for just pointing out like the obvious. So yeah, that's probably not gonna go well for him. Elon's famous because he inherited wealth. He didn't invent shit. Exactly. Trump brands with a I. Elon is slightly better than that. Not really. Like not at all. Like they're just both like far right, narcissistic, wealthy oligarchs. What's the difference? Like they're just both far right oligarchs. That's what is the difference between them? They have completely aligned interests. He buys things that's doing something. True. True.
Universal, Comcast, Sony, and Ubisoft all announcing that they are pulling ads from Twitter. Now, this advertiser boycott comes in response to Elon Musk endorsing a viciously anti-Semitic and xenophobic conspiracy theory from this person.
It's just the Jewish question, okay? It's literally like just the Jewish question. Like Jews are behind like the replacement of like white people because Jews are behind like mass immigration. Like that's literally like that's literally just the Jewish question. And then Elon's like, true!
Who wrote, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realizations that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want the truth said to your face? There it is. Now Elon Musk replied saying, you have said the actual truth. Now I'm sure that most of you are already familiar with this deeply anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, but if you're not, let me tell you who else promoted this. Quote, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society likes to bring invaders in that kill our people. Screw your optics, I'm going in. Those were the last words posted online by Robert Bowers before he massacred worshippers at Pittsburgh's Tree of Life Synagogue in 2018.
Oof. Yikes. Carpe, how's it going? Twitch doing that thing again? Wait, what is Twitch doing now? Oh, it doesn't show badges until a second comment? That's interesting.
It was the single deadliest anti-Semitic attack in American history. In previous postings, Bowers explained the grievances that led him to commit mass murder. He shared meme after meme asserting that Jews were conspiring to flood the country with brown people in order to oppose and displace the white race.
Yeah, so this is just like the Jewish question, right? This is like the great replacement theory kind of meshed in there as well. Many people are complaining it's weird Twitch today. Yeah, I mean it's Twitch. It's Twitch. What's funny is that like I can see the badges as the creator, even the initial message. Well, I don't know. It might be just It might even vary from chat to chat, so I don't even know. But to me, I see everything. Now I see all the badges immediately. What's funny is that like sometimes my my moderator badge disappears. And this isn't even new either. It's happened several times. Like if I have a mod badge, it will disappear, but I can still see mod view and I can still do things, but it just won't show up for like a message or two, or like the initial message that was in Bing. I see them on all comments in Firefox. False alarm. Okay, gotcha. Browser error.
Quote, open your eyes.
Maybe Twitch was bingy.
Has declared one. Quote, it's the filthy evil Jews bringing the filthy evil Muslims into the country. And as it turns out, the world's richest man basically believes this too. Now, to suggest that this was Elon Musk's mask-off moment would be wrong, because it's not the first time that he's endorsed conspiratorial white supremacist rhetoric. For example, in response to some...
Like, literally, Elon's, like, unofficial title is, like, the Nazi reply guy, okay? Just when anyone might think society's making progress, hate crimes are going up. No, this is just specifically, like, talking about Elon Musk. This is specifically talking about Elon Musk, like, doing Nazi shit, and then, like, finally, it becomes public enough that corporations are being forced to respond by removing their advertisers, and now he's big mad. Yeah, truly a genius. Want to see something really wild? Bro, are you serious? Hold on. I might actually have to go into my files for this one. Hold on. Okay, where is it? Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah. Yeah, that's what we would, that's what we would call a big oof. Vincent Bevins is basically the author of the Jakarta Method. Oh, I still have not read the Jakarta Method. Legal critics blast Elon Musk lawsuit against Media Matters as weak and bogus. Yeah, it's BS, because like in the same like proposed like a lawsuit language, like they basically admit that that's what's happening. Like Nazi shit is appearing next to ads, and then companies are like, "Wow, we don't want that," and that's it. That's the end of the story. They pull out their ads. Wow. I mean, like, that's phenomenal. Like, if irony was a tweet, or if irony was a story, it would be this one. If irony was a story, it would be this one. Jesus Christ. Media Matters responds in a statement on Monday evening. Media Matters president vowed to defend the group against the suit. This is a frivolous lawsuit meant to bully X's critics into silence. Media Matters stands behind the reporting, and it looks forward to winning in court. Some legal experts suggest that Media Matters' first course of action maybe to try to move the case outside of the Texas federal court. X is headquartered in California. I mean, like, I can't imagine, I can't imagine seeing this, go anywhere, to be honest.
Someone whining about the burning of Robert E. Lee's Confederate monument, writing, "Literally my ancestor, we carry the Lee names as a first middle in my family. While I didn't need a direct insulting gesture to tell me that my kind is hated and many seek our extinction, the implicit cues were strong enough."
What? Damn, if that's what you got from... Okay. I mean, that says a lot about you. But okay.
I appreciate this image making it absolutely clear. Musk responded to that saying they absolutely want your extinction. Now, as of today, after commenting that Media Matters is pure evil, I'll tell you why he thinks this in a moment, Matt Binder points out that he's now possibly dabbling in Pizzagate conspiracy theories as well. But to be clear, the straw that broke the camel's back for advertisers was the anti-Semitic tweet that he responded to, endorsing that vicious conspiracy theory. Now, he responded to accusations that he's anti-Semitic by saying, "This past week, there were hundreds of bogus media stories claiming that I am anti-Semitic. Nothing could be further from the truth. I wish only the best for humanity and a prosperous and exciting future for all." Wow, that's very convincing. I guess he's just going to deny that he endorsed an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. Now, he's going a little bit further, to be fair, in order to prove that he's committed to...
Like, this is what's wild to me. Like, this dude's openly endorsing publicly, endorsing like the Jewish question, and consistently replying and elevating these Nazis, and people are calling him anti-Semitic, rightfully so. And he's like, "Well, I'm not anti-Semitic. They're just trying to silence me or whatever." And then like people bring up like anti-Semitic accusations towards like people like Greta Thunberg for having a blue octopus plushie. Is not Elon having employment lawsuits from trimming Twitter? Musk deal went through? I don't know. But he's not exactly... Well, I mean, he's a capitalist, so he's not exactly a friend to labor. A federal appeals court on Friday upheld a previous finding that Tesla CEO violated labor laws by firing an employee involved in union organizing. I mean, like, yeah, he's a capitalist. Yeah, he's a capitalist. He's, by definition, going to be in direct opposition to workers.
Combating anti-Semitism on the platform, he is cracking down on Palestinian political speech, not anti-Semitism. He writes, "As I said earlier this week, decolonization from the river to the sea and similar euphemisms necessarily imply genocide. Clear calls for extreme violence are against our terms of service and will result in suspension." Now, after he...
Right, so, but of course, when he endorses literal, like, Nazi conspiracy theories, that's okay.
Made this announcement, "From the river to the sea" started trending almost immediately, much like Sis did after he called that a slur and subsequently tried to ban that word too. Now, I've talked about this before, but "from the river to the sea" isn't inherently anti-Semitic. When Palestinians use it, however, they're effectively calling for freedom from oppression and a peaceful coexistence between Arabs and Israelis. So the context does matter, even if this is a little bit more complicated. But let's just be really charitable to Elon Musk for a moment, even though we don't have to be. And let's assume that he just wants to be overly sensitive to any phrases that can be perceived as anti-Semitic after his little oopsie. Fine. Wouldn't you take it a step further and ban all of the Nazis and white supremacists on your platform? Isn't that the most effective way to eliminate anti-Semitism?
No, because he's not fundamentally against anti-Semitism, given that he provides so much fucking not propaganda, so much he elevates these Nazi accounts just by replying to them, right? Just by replying or retweeting them. He elevates their platforms. So no, he's not fundamentally against anti-Semitism. If his goal was actually to eliminate anti-Semitism, he would be eliminating all these Nazi accounts.
From Twitter? Well, maybe, but these are the same people who also pay him $8 a month to get an algorithmic boost, which is why we're all seeing more Nazism and white supremacy and transphobia. So if he were to ban these folks who are paying them money, he's taking money out of his own pocket. But because he won't take action against actual anti-Semitism and because he engages in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories himself, that's why advertisers are pulling out, because he's very clearly not committed to combating anti-Semitism. But the story somehow gets even stupider because Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, actually applauded Elon Musk for this move, saying, "This is an important and welcome move by Elon Musk. I appreciate his leadership in fighting hate." Now, I just want to pause for a moment and appreciate the absurdity of this situation.
Yeah. Elon Musk is definitely a right-winger. I mean, he's not, like, it's not just even that he's a right-winger, but yeah, he's literally just endorsing and elevating, like, Nazi shit.
The head of the ADL is praising Elon Musk, of all people, for his leadership in fighting hate on Twitter, of all places, in 2023, in November.
Right, when Elon has, like, unbanned a bunch of Nazis and shit as well.
November of 2023. Feels like we're living in the upside down. Like nothing is real because it's too stupid to be believable. Now, it's not like Jonathan Greenblatt is unaware of Elon Musk's previous endorsement of a vicious anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, because a day earlier, he literally condemned it, writing on Twitter, "At a time when anti-Semitism is exploding in America and surging around the world, it is indisputably dangerous to use one's influence to validate and promote anti-Semitic theories." So, according to the ADL, you can validate an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory one day, but the very next day, literally, you can be hailed for your leadership in fighting hate. Make it make sense. It's impossible. Now, this isn't necessarily too surprising considering the ADL's sudden desire to, I guess, destroy their credibility, or what's left of it, all in an effort to protect Israel no matter what. So the organization has been focused on defaming student supporters of Palestinian human rights and painting them as terrorist sympathizers while urging colleges to investigate them. But meanwhile, they're giving actual stochastic terrorists like Chaya Raichik a pass by temporarily removing her from their glossary of extremism and hate after she threatened to sue them. Now, at the time that I record this video, they still haven't reinstated her. And this is also bizarre to me because it seems as if the ADL is currently spending more time going after student protesters than actual Nazis and actual hate mongers. And they're even willing to give Elon Musk a pass after he literally, just last week, spread a vicious anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that was used by the shooter that murdered people at the Tree of Life synagogue. But so long as Elon Musk is signaling support for Israel by censoring pro-Palestinian speech, I guess that he's acceptable by the standards of the ADL now.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, there's been a lot of these, like, far-right people who have somehow managed to, people have, like, managed to forget just how, like, far-right these people are because of their support for Israel. Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene, we saw that segment where she literally, like, said some pretty anti-Semitic shit, and that comedian rightfully called her out on it. This Nazism isn't freedom of speech, it's a crime. Well, we don't really have a law against, like, being a Nazi.
Just such a deeply unserious organization, which is sad because they do some good work. But I mean, this recent turn is just embarrassing, because if you are applauding Elon Musk of all people after he said that, then you have no credibility, because that is dangerous, as they recognized. Now, in addition to doubling down on censorship on Twitter, Elon Musk is trying to silence Media Matters too by threatening them with a thermonuclear lawsuit, because he believes they're threatening free speech on Twitter by manipulating advertisers into fleeing by documenting the rise of hate speech on the platform.
Like, in this own document, they like basically admits that what is happening is happening. Like, you could just look at this and see for yourself. So, anyways.
Now, he ironically ends this long post by saying, "Stand with X to protect free speech," which is so fucking funny. Now, it's true that Media Matters does frequently write about the proliferation of hate speech on Twitter, but let's not forget that this latest round of advertiser boycotts is specifically because of Elon Musk's own words, not the hate that he's allowing on the platform. And furthermore, he's trying to silence Media Matters with legal intimidation.
Right, while simultaneously saying, like, yeah, I'm a arbiter of free speech or whatever, while he also, like, he also complies with, like, other governments' requests to, like, stifle speech. Like, this guy is not a free speech person at all. He's not a free speech person. None of these like free speech people and never end up being free speech. Never end up actually being for free speech. What they mean is just like, what they mean by free speech, it just means like I want to be able to say what I want without consequences, and if people push back on my shit, then like I don't want to hear it. I should just be able to be an asshole online, and nobody should be able to push back on me. That's what they mean by free speech. Free speech to them is just like, I should be free to say whatever I want and free from consequences. Fortunately, we in Germany do have a law against Nazism, at least in a certain way. Opening arguments kicked off at the Wisconsin Supreme Court in the suit challenging the state's heavily... Yeah, we'll talk about this. Yeah, I mean... We'll talk about this. And yes, Germany does have laws against Nazism. Like, you can't just be like an out and about like Sieg Heiling Nazi or have any type of Nazi paraphernalia or Nazi shit.
He is the one threatening free speech, not Media Matters. They're just saying what's happening. Now, he said he was going to file a lawsuit on Monday. It's now Monday, and at the time that I record this video, still no lawsuit, but we'll have to wait and see. However, some of his right-wing buddies are trying to come to the rescue and bail him out amid this latest round of advertiser boycotts. For example, the Babylon Bee CEO, Seth Dillon, pledged $250,000 in advertising on Twitter, and Tim Pool pledged another $250,000 after Seth Dillon did. But that's not all, because Matt Binder of Mashable reports soon more...
Nice. So now we're gonna get a whole bunch of like cringy Babylon Bee and Tim Pool ads. Nice. That's what we're gonna see. Oh man, if this brings down Twitter, if this is the end for Twitter, honestly, I would be okay with that. I would be perfectly fine with that.
Right-wing media figures and companies followed with pledges of their own, albeit much less than the amounts that Dillon and Pool were promising. Political commentator Benny Johnson, for example, pledged $50,000 in ad spending. Other right-wing creators like the Quartering, Donut Operator...
The Quarter Pounder himself. Okay. Oh man, I look forward to all of these ads. This is literally just gonna be Gab. This is literally just gonna turn into Gab. Also, our laws against insults are far more restrictive than yours.
Gavin McInnes and Elijah Schaefer pledged smaller amounts ranging from $2,500 to $40,000. The controversial Andrew Tate, a manosphere influencer who has previously been charged with rape and human trafficking, pledged the largest amount, saying he'd give Musk $1 million per month without even running ads for his own endeavors. As of publishing a total of 8...
Sir, I'll give you $1 million a month, sir. Jesus, man. Wow.
Right-wing media figures and groups have pledged $1,627,500 in ad buys on X. That includes Tate's possibly unserious offer. In addition, the majority of those pledges are over the course of multiple months, so that amount is not per month. But get this, to compare to the amount X has lost from fleeing advertisers, Apple alone reportedly spends more than $100 million per year on X ads. Looking at it more broadly, advertising made up 90% of the $5.1 billion that then Twitter made in the year before Musk took over. Now, the reason why Bender thinks that Andrew Tate's pledge is unserious is because Romanian authorities said that he only had about $10 million in assets. And I say only, but that's still a lot, meaning that if he actually held true to this, he would give away the entirety of his wealth within a year. So obviously, I don't think that he's really committing to this. He's just virtue signaling for clout. But just stop for a moment and think about how pathetic these right-wing bootlickers are. They are all willing to donate money to a platform owned by the richest man on the planet, all in the name of supporting free speech after he's demonstrated time and again that he's not actually committed to free speech. I mean,
because none of those people believe in free speech. None of those people believe in free speech. None of them.
It'd be humorous if it wasn't so fucking pathetic. But listen, if you actually do care about free speech, and you should, there are much better places that you can put your money into. Free speech to Elon Musk literally just means free speech for white supremacists, transphobes, and Nazis. He isn't actually committed to protecting free speech. I think time and again, he has proven that. His actions indicate that that is the extent of his commitment to free speech, letting Nazis say what they want on the platform and get boosted by the algorithm. But fortunately for these dumbass grifters, that really is the only free speech that I think they care about, so I guess it works for them. Either way, I hope that the advertisers continue to flee, but understand that this is not the first time that advertisers have fled Twitter en masse. And I'm assuming that they will quietly resume advertising in a month or so once this all blows over, until Elon Musk has another oopsie and they all collectively announce another pause from advertising. Listen, the true victory will be these advertisers leaving Twitter permanently. And I think that a sustained level of public shaming is necessary in order to make that a reality. But until then, we can at least...
Yeah, like, keep in mind, like, none of these corporations actually give a shit. Only as far as, like, it affects their profit and their perceived image. Because honestly, if nobody brought this up, if this was never talked about, they would not care. None of these corporations would even pull their ads out or anything like that. It's only when it became a problem for them that they even did something. And yeah, they fundamentally don't care. As long as the profits are going, it doesn't matter. The free speech is just as you agree with their opinion, and I think we all know it originates from dictatorships. Well, yeah, I mean they don't believe in free speech. What they mean by free speech is like, I want to be able to be as hateful and bigoted as possible, and you can't do anything about it. Like, that's basically what they mean by free speech. And that's not hyperbolic, or that's not strawmanning their position. That's literally how they behave. That's literally what the natural logic of their actions lead to. They're just, fundamentally, they're just saying that free speech for me just means that I want to be as hateful and bigoted as possible, and you can't do anything about it. The moment you push back, you're infringing on my free speech. That's always the same argument that they try to give.
Enjoy the schadenfreude of the world's richest man losing more money because of his own hate and stupidity.
Like, everywhere there's blood, you see.
Phenomenal meme. Personally, again, if Twitter just, like, dies tomorrow, that would be a-okay with me. And I think more advertisers should leave the platform permanently, because it's only a matter of time before Elon has another oopsie, right? It's only a matter of time before he's back to being the Nazi reply guy that gets way too much traction, right? All right, shifting gears really quickly. Surprise, surprise. Moms for Liberty leader turns out to be a convicted sex offender. Wow. No way. A Republican pastor who coordinates a faith-based outreach for the Philadelphia chapter of Moms for Liberty was convicted a decade ago of sexually abusing a teenage boy, which also just happens to be a dude, which is kind of weird. Moms for Liberty. Okay. Philip Fisher, who leads the Center of Universe Divinity in Olney, helps connect the right-wing group with local faith leaders to boost membership. Oh, okay, I see. And other leaders say they're shocked, I tell you, to learn that he pleaded guilty in 2012 to a felony count of aggravated assault, sexual abuse of a 14-year-old boy when he was 25. Fisher blames his conviction on a political action committee for perennial presidential candidate Lyndon LaRoche, which he had worked for, but he was trying to break free of what he now calls a cult. It was a political situation that happened between me and Lyndon Roche. It was a member of his camp and his party that made that accusation. They pushed it through, and it was a railroad job. Then you pled guilty? Moms for Liberty supported Hitler. Yeah, was that the same group that put the Hitler quote on the billboard? Was that the same one? His criminal history stunned Vince Fennerty, the chair of the Philadelphia's Republican City Committee, who demanded and received Fisher's resignation as the leader of the GOP's 42nd Ward. A national spokesperson for Moms for Liberty did not respond for a request for comment, but Sheila Armstrong, another GOP ward leader who chairs the local Moms for Liberty chapter, expressed surprise, saying that she had just received from the State Department of Human Services a child abuse history certification in Fisher's name so he could volunteer for an upcoming Christmas party for an autism nonprofit that she leads. Yeah. Just the term how they call themselves, it's disgusting to anyone who really has to fight for liberty. Yeah, but that's how they all do it, right? They say Moms for Liberty. The Freedom Caucus. I'm super hungry. Me too. Fisher was sentenced to 3 years in prison and given credit for spending nearly 20 months in jail awaiting trial, and he said he agreed to plead guilty to get out of jail, where he said he experienced violence from other prisoners. At the time, I was the victim. Oh, you were the victim. What they did was basically trumped up charges to drown out the complaints I was making on the issues of human rights. Fisher is a registered sex offender database. Fisher is registered on the sex offender database maintained by the Illinois State Police, and that information is also listed on the National Sex Offender website maintained by the U.S. Department of Justice. I never went out of my way to hide anything. I'm in the database. It's an easy search. Yeah. Okay. I mean, is anybody really surprised that these stories just keep happening? It's the same how they tried to ban books. Yeah. Moms for Liberty chapter apologizes for quoting Hitler in its newsletter. Hey, it turns out that we received massive, it turns out we received massive backlash for, quoting a genocidal maniac. So I guess that was bad. I think the whole who has more child predator argument is broadly pretty crass. Like, who wins out of it? No, it's more like the people who consistently talk about, like, save the kids, and like all the trope of like, oh, the LGBTQ community is predators, and the people who consistently call out any queer person just like a groomer. All those type of people just keeps happening. It just keeps happening. They turn out to be the predators or defenders of predators themselves. Are bad. Well, okay, but there are definitely some contingents of that other side who have been guilty of that too. The difference is, if I found out that like some left leaning person was convicted of like child abuse or child sex abuse, like that would be an immediate condemnation. And I don't go around like saying like just because a person is a member of a community automatically means that they're a pedophile, versus like the right wing consistently, they're like the moment they see like a LGBT person, they're like, oh, okay, groomer. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those people. Does that make sense? He left for his inappropriate actions while others did not. Yeah. Yeah. Like the more and a more appropriate like equivalent is like showing like a bunch of like left-leaning people like always accusing every single I don't know, right-wing podcaster. If you listen to if you're a right-wing podcaster, then you're automatically X or whatever. Like, that's not a thing that happens. Like, I don't know, this is something that has happened a lot. Here's someone who lives in the west of Scotland. I've seen the Irish diaspora consistently get labeled with accusations because they're Catholics, and I see some people do it backwards and try to pick out predator Protestants. Like, nah, man, nobody wins out of this point. Scoring on abusing kids, everyone just kind of loses. It's not even that. It's the same people. Like, well, first of all, I mean, yeah, the church is pretty. The Catholic Church in specific is pretty notorious. But that doesn't mean every single Catholic person is a pedophile. Do you see the difference? You see, I'm not going around accusing every single Catholic person of being a pedophile. The difference is these freaks literally paint entire broad brushes. Like, they'll say things like, oh, the entire like LGBT community are just groomers, right? And without fail, it turns out that actually it's them. It's them. But the point being is that the left doesn't really do that. The left doesn't really go around saying to every single Catholic person that they see, like, oh, pedophile. That's not a thing that happens. Just to make like a parallel comparison. And most often, the people who are most vocal like that are the people who are predators or people who defend predators. Never fails. Never fails. Thing about pedophilia is it's easy. Important thing about anyone suffers from it. Anyone suffers from it? Question mark. You need to be aware you're suffering, and important about anyone who suffers from it. You need to be aware you're suffering, and you're never going to act on your needs. I mean, I've certainly seen it happen more in regards with Catholicism and people having a go at religious people. I've seen self-described Marxists or socialists or whatever doing it, and it's just all around a bit sad. Yeah, well, like, I won't agree with the idea that just because, like, you see a Catholic person, that automatically means that they're a pedophile. Like, I don't endorse that. This is what I'm talking about. This is a Moms for Liberty person with an OK Groomer t-shirt, which is the stuff that James Lindsay, I think it was James Lindsay who like popularized it. So basically that's like the response to like literally any LGBT person, any LGBTQ Q person is just to call them OK Groomer. This is a person from Moms for Liberty. That's why I ended up making stories like that or going over the stories like, oh, wow. Well, it turns out that these are the people who either have worked with, defended, or are the predators themselves. Never fails. Never fails with these people. Does that make sense? Is the point made? The same goes for this clown James Lindsay, who I just saw here, who was literally palling around with the person who is in prison for child sex trafficking. Yeah. And just to be clear, like, pedojacketing is not okay. Falsely just going around and calling large groups of people without, like, evidence, just pedophiles for no reason, is not okay. And that's my point. That's my point. Also, to add to that, like, literally the right wing has made it a political, the right wing has literally made it a political, like, point, as part of their platform to do this type of stuff, right? Like, they actively campaign on this type of stuff. They actively move political power on this stuff. They make laws banning LGBTQ books by putting them under pornographic or like sexual whatever because of this stuff. Does that make sense? You see the difference? But bad eggs to definitely be thrown in the bin. Yeah, like if you're out there pedo jacketing just for the sake of pedo jacketing an entire group of people with no evidence, that's not good. My point is that the right wing, who has literally built a platform on this, the right wing has literally built a platform on this, has campaigned on this. Is not the same. It's just not the same. And to point out every time that these people are like, okay, groomer, or pointing out that LGBTQ people are predators, oftentimes are the same people who defend, work with, or are the predators themselves. The people who most sexualize children in this country are right-wingers, in my opinion. Just let them be human beings. Yeah, true. But yeah, I'm just saying that, like, the right wing literally makes an entire, like, thing out of this. My theory is if you're pedophilic, you have sometime become aware of it and you realize you can't ever act on your needs, and that's where celibacy comes in handy. Since you can't have any relationship, the celibacy prevents you from abusing a child. Unfortunately, sexual desires can never be suppressed forever. Yeah, I don't know how I would deal with that. I would probably refer that that question to an actual professional. I do agree with the sentiment that kids should be left to be kids, but in general, quite a lot of childhood has been politicized from multiple fronts, and it's mostly people who are going in with bad intentions, or at least selfish intentions. But in general, quite a lot of childhood has become politicized from multiple fronts. Yeah, but now we're getting into, like, well, now that's a whole other argument. That I don't necessarily agree with. I think, like, mostly the right is more interested in indoctrinating children from young. I mean, it starts the politicization starts, like, honestly, when it comes to, like, right-wing politics, starts at home with the church, and it goes from there. But my point being is that the right wing absolutely has made an entire political platform on that basis of pedo jacketing entire communities, like the LGBTQ communities. Boys are this way and girls are this way. Boy toys and girl toys. I mean, maybe this is a better question. Do you think that the right is more interested in doing it, or do you think the right are just doing it more as in they have the political means to do it? Because I do hear contrary from the right, where they'll say, well, they're giving kids too much confusing material that is skewed to a progressive ideal. But who's actually right, like objectively? Like if you think learning about slavery and like learning about the actual historical events that happened is like skewing to a more progressive ideal, like that's a you problem. Does that make sense? They're feigning outrage over a problem that doesn't exist. And like, if they're admitting that by definition, material skewing to a more progressive ideal just means that they're learning like a more in-depth story that maybe is more closer to the truth than previous curriculums, then like, I don't know, man. It just sounds like a them problem. But yeah. They're grooming the kids by teaching them sex ed. These pedo teachers. You see where this is going? These pedo teachers indoctrinating kids with LGBT, like, come on. They literally built an entire political platform on this. Do you see like the left wing making an entire political platform over like, I don't know, the problems with the pedophilic problems with the Catholic Church? No, it gets brought up because it's hypocritical of the right wing. That's why it gets brought up. Well, to be fair, I don't think that's the point that James was bringing up, because nobody wins if you're racing to the bottom. I think that's what James's originally point was, Alio. My point is that the right literally builds an entire political platform based on pedojacketing. Yes. Don't have to have facts if you yell loudly. True. If Slade benefited from Slade, concentration prisoners would have benefited as well. Only to think about something is ridiculous. Right, like imagine like, you know, you learning about slavery and then like the right wing comes and tells you like, well, I think that's too that has a progressive sway. Instead, I think we should teach the kids I think we should teach kids that actually slaves benefited from slavery. Oh wait, that is happening in Florida. Shoot. Yeah, the race to the bottom is simply explained, although I don't really know if the left or right commit more sexual crime. I never actually looked at that. Maybe it would be hard to qualify. Well, no, I'm pretty sure you can look at statistics. My point is that the right wing makes an entire like political platform out of it. Like that's objectively correct. There's no like there's not an argument. Like there's no argument there. Like that is objectively what the right wing does. The left wing does not do that. All right, Alio, I think you brought this up earlier. Wisconsin Supreme Court appears poised to strike down legislative maps and end Republican dominance. The Wisconsin Supreme Court appeared poised to strike down the current maps for the state legislature after 3 hours of oral argumentation on today, a decision that could end more than a decade of Republican dominance and eliminate some of the most gerrymandered districts in the U.S. Wild. 4 liberal justices on the court all seem to be ready to embrace an argument from challenges in the case Clark v. Wisconsin Elections Commissions. The maps violate the state constitution because they include more than 70 districts. It was unclear, however, how the justices would handle the redrawing of a map and whether it would immediately order elections for the entire legislature next year in new districts. Wisconsin voters elect 99 assembly members every 2 years, but only about half of the 33-member Senate would normally be up for election next year. If they ever had the choice to become a slave, they didn't. Yeah, like if you read what the Florida is doing, like it's an exact direct response to like the education has a progressive sway. So like I guess we gotta say that slaves had benefits. What? Nothing wrong with sex parties, but he definitely condemned stuff like that. Yeah, like again, when we bring out stories like this, nobody cares that like these people had like a sex party, right? The problem is the hypocrisy. And again, the right wing also does this. They campaign on this entire thing of like family values, right? Christian family values is what they campaign on a lot of times. Roy Moore was a huge pedo who won his election around the time that Franklin stepped down. Yep. To be fair, James, I think they're viewing it as a Democrat versus Republican, and you can extrapolate, I guess, their political affiliation based on their voting records, I guess, if you wanted to. But that's not even, like, the point, I think. Anywho. Much of Tuesday's oral arguments focus on how to interpret the definition of contiguity in the Wisconsin's constitution. The document mandates that assembly districts be bounded by county, precinct, town, or ward lines to consist of contiguous territory and be in as compact form as practicable. Practicable. It says that the state senate district shall be comprised of convenient, contiguous territory. Despite that requirement, 75 of the state's 132 legislative districts, 54 in the state assembly and 21 in the Senate, contain at least one detached piece. Taylor Meehan, an attorney for legislative Republicans, argued that the district had long been considered to be contiguous as long as they kept towns and counties and wards whole. In Wisconsin, localities have annexed disconnected parts of land that have resulted in strange shapes. You can define contiguity as strictly or as loosely as you want. That's the tail leading the dog. I'm pretty sure we're supposed to look at the definition to determine what the law is, said Joe Krofsky, a liberal elected in 2020, who asked some of the most pointed questions. Justice Ann Walsh Bradley, another liberal on the court, said history from the time Wisconsin's constitution led her to believe that it was unconvincing that contiguous could mean something other than physical contact. Mark Gaber, a lawyer from nonprofit Campaign Legal Center who represented some of the challengers, also said that it was possible to draw physically contiguous districts that included the detached portions. There's not a single place in Wisconsin where it's not possible to bound the districts with county, town, and ward lines and be 100% contiguous. In 2011, Republicans drew districts for state legislators that were so distorted in their favor that it made it impossible for them to lose their majorities. Last year, the state Supreme Court implemented new maps that made little changes possible from the old ones when lawmakers and the state Democratic governor reached a redistricting impasse. The court's liberal wing seemed unsettled on how they would proceed with the potential remedy to fixing the maps. The state election officials have said that they would need a new map in place no later than March 15th of 2024 for use in next year's election. The justices asked all the lawyers in the case on Tuesday to submit the names of nonpartisan map makers who could serve as a special master to advise them in the coming up with new maps. The request signaled the court was aware of the need to move quickly if they're going to strike down the map. Meehan, the attorney for the Legislative Republicans, and Richard Essenberg, an attorney for the conservative Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, both argued that non-contiguous defects in the map could be addressed by tweaks to the defective areas without redrawing the entire map. Redrawing the entire map, they suggested, would simply allow challengers a backdoor to try to get districts where they were more friendly to Democrats. Meehan said that the arguments were a wolf in sheep's clothing designed to backdoor a political statewide remedy. Karofsky seemed to be unpersuaded. Over half of the assembly districts in the state have a constitutional violation. Why don't we start clean? Based. Sam Hirsch, a lawyer representing mathematicians and statisticians challenging the map, urged the justices to not draw the map themselves, but instead give the legislator a chance to fix them. Getting involved in the actual districting, he said, was a slippery slope you don't want to go down. Brian Hagdorn, a conservative justice, pressed the challengers to explain how they should think about partisan fairness if the maps get redrawn. He suggested there was no way for a court to determine whether there was an acceptable number of Republican or Democratic districts. Gaber responded with a much simpler principle that he said should guide the decision. Many of the questions from conservative justices sharply pressed the challengers in the case why they had not raised their claims 2 years ago when the Supreme Court initially decided the redistricting case. Justice Rebecca Bradley, one of the three conservatives on the 7-member court, repeatedly noted that 2 years ago, no party raised a contiguity challenge and had stipulated that all the districts comply with the court's definition of contiguity. Whatever. You have to touch. Conscious Canuck, how's it going? The clear subtext was that the challengers were bringing the new claims now because liberals flipped control of the Supreme Court. The case was filed the day after Janet Prostowitz formally took her seat on the Supreme Court in August, flipping control of the bench and giving liberals a 4-3 majority. Prostowitz, who called the maps rigged during her campaign last year, a comment that has prompted Republicans in the legislature to threaten to impeach her. Bradley interrupted Mark Gaber, a lawyer for the challengers, less than 10 seconds after he began his argument, saying, "Where were you, your clients 2 years ago?" she asked. At one point, Bradley bluntly says challengers were only bringing the case because of the composition the court had changed. I mean, like, yeah, like, is that like a serious question? Because, like, when conservatives bring this up bring up specific cases, they bring them up in friendly courts for a reason. And now, like, you're big mad that a case is being brought up because the court is more or less favorable. You're ultimately asking this court to unseat every assemblyman that was elected last year, said Bradley, comparing the plaintiff's request to implement a new map before the 2024 elections, and additionally to hold early special elections for representatives not up for election in 2024, to Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election. I mean, you could perform whatever mental gymnastics necessary to make that comparison, but hey, whatever makes you feel better, because this is not the same as a coordinated effort to overturn an election. That's not the same. That's why, as a German, can't consider the U.S. democracy. Well, it technically, I don't know if you could call it like a pure democracy, anyways. How on earth can gerrymandering be considered legal? Because reasons and things. Reasons and things. She later asked Eisenberg, one of the attorneys defending Map, whether he really expected to get a fair hearing before the court. Other challengers warned that a court decision wading into redistricting would invite future challenges and would signal there was no finality to rulings in the district cases. Is there an end to this litigation? So, like, if there's something like if there's something like so severely like gerrymandered, and like you're trying to challenge that because it's bullshit and it's anti-democratic, so by that logic, there should never ever be a challenge to any map by that definition. Of course, there's always going to be litigation if there is a problem with the maps. If there's a problem with the districts, of course there's always going to be litigation, and there's always probably, or should be, if the maps are redrawn in a poor manner, then there should be a remedy for it, right? So yeah, there's always going to be a back and forth. I want you to know that I did notice you changed the icon on the left, the tiny one. It looks great. Which one? The little guy on the top left, the logo, I should say. Oh, and you're live and you click to watch. Oh, yeah. The logo changed. I put it up on the Discord. I put it up on the YouTube. Finally, I made the switch on the YouTube channel. I believe I put it on the Twitter as well. That logo was actually made by a viewer. It is remarkable to see a matter, a particular case of or controversy, fully litigated before this court, and then an attempt to made effectively reopen this a year later after a change in the composition of the court, said Essenberg. He described the situation where the state repeatedly and rapidly adjusts its legislative maps, hindering representatives' ability to serve their constituents in office. The Constitution takes a back seat to what you just described, countered Justice Rebecca Dallett. Several of Bradley's questions were pointed. At one point, she yelled at Karofsky, a liberal in the court, for cutting her off during a question, and asked, "Are you arguing the case? The map for Wisconsin State Assembly may be the most gerrymandered body in the U.S. It packs Democrats into as few districts as possible while splitting their influence elsewhere. Even though Wisconsin is one of the most politically competitive states, Republicans have never held fewer than 60 seats in the state assembly since 2012. The gerrymandering in the assembly carries over to the state senate, where Wisconsin law requires the districts to be comprised of 3 assembly districts. The court's liberal justices seemed less interested in a second part of the challenge to the map, an argument that the way the maps came to be implemented ran afoul of the state constitution. In 2021, the state Supreme Court took over the redistricting process after Democratic Governor Tony Evers vetoed a GOP-drawn plan. The court, which then had a conservative majority, invited a range of submissions for a new map, but announced it would pick a proposal that made as little change as possible to the existing maps. It initially chose a plan drawn by Evers, but the map was rejected by the U.S. Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court then chose a different map submitted by the legislative Republicans. It was the same map Evers had vetoed in 2021. That decision, the challengers argued, allowed the legislature to essentially override Evers' veto, the challengers said, violating the separation of powers between the governmental branches. The state Supreme Court also exercised a constitutionally permissible role in choosing the map, they say, because the governor and lawmakers had reached an impasse. If we can't as people have a healthy discussion of what we see as not fit, it's no longer a democracy. It reminds me more of being ran as a country by a dictator. Well, what we have really is an oligarchy, essentially. For all intents and purposes, this is an oligarchy. A plutocracy, I guess, would be another. A plutocracy is probably another term that comes to mind. No country is really a democracy is why most politics students are introduced quite early to a guy named Robert Dahl and his concept of polyarchy. No, I don't think that we'll ever have like a pure democracy where one person does one vote for every aspect of society. It's a concept coined by the American political scientist Robert Dahl to denote the acquisition of democratic institutions within a political system that leads to the participation of plurality of actors. A polyarchy, which means ruled by many, describes it as democratization in contrast to democracy itself. Yeah, another way of putting it is like a representative democracy, right? The U.S. Electoral College is a deciding factor in the U.S. presidential race. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it should be anymore. All right. Ruling sets of voting rights clash as states redraw congressional maps. We're moving on to the next fight. A federal appeals court decision striking down a key tool used to enforce the Voting Rights Act could set up another clash over the landmark law before the Supreme Court. The appeals panel in Arkansas ruled on yesterday, that only the Justice Department, not individual or groups such as the NAACP, should be allowed to file lawsuits accusing the state election policies of violating the 1965 law on racial discrimination. That is a wild concept, right? Think about it. So only the Department of Justice wow, thank you for your phenomenal analysis. Anyways, like if their argument is the Justice Department is the only body that's able to bring a lawsuit accusing a state of violating the Voting Rights Act. Hey, what happens when a Republican wins power and has control of the Justice Department by appointing the people who head the Justice Department? And if that logic holds through, then basically what they're saying is that, yeah, we're going to be able to violate the Voting Rights Act however many times we want and as far as we want to go, because we control the Justice Department and we're actually not going to bring any lawsuits because, well, it's in the purview of the Justice Department and we control the Justice Department. Yeah, this is pretty alarming. That's an alarming concept that these appeals justices made that conclusion. Polyarchy is more broad because it takes into consideration the fact that lots of decisions are influenced by groups and institutions. Obvious, it basically factors in for the fact that participation is unequal. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a problem, right? It's so unequal that, like, it's completely lopsided. If it was up to me, it would be 50% popular vote and 50% electoral college, and then after then, change that. Yeah, but, like, what's the point of having the electoral college? Like, really? Like, really think about it now, in this day and age. Like, what exactly do we need the electoral college for? Because it seems to me like it's just a roadblock to people's voices. Sorry I had to duck out yesterday. No worries. Hope you're feeling better. I know I'll never see it in my lifetime, but I really wish we could just have honest people for once. Both sides are dirty, and it drives me crazy. Well, if you mean both sides you mean by both parties, sure, but one side is objectively more dangerous. Period. Just this afternoon. Yikes. I had a lot of bread. Yeah, I remember that yesterday. I don't care for the Electoral College either. I got some soup cooking to rehydrate. Nice. There's another thing that doesn't get talked about. I recently read something, but can't recall what it was. But I mentioned the corrosive effect of weaponizing the legal system. From what I remember, it was basically partisanification of the law reduces the law's capacity to do its duty while reducing the public's trust in it. Those are very bad things. Yeah. And currently, like that is being driven. It is very dangerous, and that's being driven. It's being driven by Republicans, by the right. That kind of I'm not even gonna be able to pronounce it. I'm tired. Partisanification of the law is the only people who are threatening to do that is the right. They're just the only people who are threatening to do that. The decision written by the circuit judge, a Trump appointee. Let's just pretend it is. Nah, it makes sense, all right? Even if it's not, it gets the point across. It makes sense. That language, listen, the purpose of language is to be able to be understood and communicate. So if the sounds that are coming out of your mouth and the words that are being put on the screen make sense to people and the point gets across, then like it did its job, right? A Trump appointee flies in the face of decades of legal precedent. The vast majority of court rulings have shaped protections of people of color and others under the Voting Rights Act have come in cases that were brought by individuals and groups. This is wild. So they're saying like basically like we're gonna circumvent this entire law, this entire act, and the way we're gonna do it is through the Justice Department. Do the courts by weaponizing the courts and saying that only the Justice Department should be allowed to bring these lawsuits, not the people that actually are going to be affected. Like if I'm affected, if I'm discriminated against, I'm not able to file a lawsuit. It should be the Justice Department on my behalf, I guess. Monday's ruling comes at a time when challenges to congressional and legislative maps drawn by Republican-led legislators in Alabama, North Dakota, Louisiana, and Georgia have led judges to order those states to come up with new maps that don't limit minorities' voting power. Yeah, so like they're big mad that they're being forced to actually, not be racist. I guess all of those challenges were brought by individuals and groups, not the Justice Department. It's unclear how or whether the cases might be affected if the Arkansas case eventually leads to a ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court, as many legal analysts expect. Like, can you imagine? Like, so what would be the argument if it turns out that it's if we buy this logic that only the Justice Department is allowed to bring up lawsuits? So like, Biden is the current president, right? So should if Biden's Justice Department starts bringing up lawsuits under the Voting Rights Act, they would say that this is election interference. They would say that Biden is weaponizing the the Justice Department and trying to interfere with elections. Like, this is ludicrous. This is ludicrous. If states wind up complying with various court orders to redraw maps, Democrats could get a mini windfall of new congressional seats as they hope to regain control of the House in 2024. Last month, a federal court approved a newly drawn Alabama congressional map that will expand the voting power of black residents who make up about 30% of the state's population, but were mostly in one of the state's 7 congressional districts under a GOP-drawn map. The new court-ordered map includes one majority black district represented by Alabama delegations, only Democrat, and another that is 49% black. Black voters tend to heavily favor Democrats, so the change significantly boosts the odds that Alabama will have 2 Democratic House members after the 2024 election. In North Dakota, a federal judge ruled recently that the state's legislative redistricting plan violates the voting rights of Native Americans because it dilutes their voting strength. U.S. District Chief Judge Peter Wilt has given North Dakota's legislature until December 22 to adopt a plan to remedy this violation. Outgoing Louisiana Governor Bell Edwards, a Democrat, is preparing to call a special session for the state's GOP-led legislature to follow a court order to redraw its congressional maps. Louisiana's population is 30% black, but only one of its 6 congressional districts has a majority black population. Georgia's GOP-controlled legislature is scheduled to return November 29th for a special session to redraw several congressional districts after a federal judge ruled that they violated the Voting Rights Act. And none of this would be possible if, they didn't have the ability to bring their grievances to the courts. Black voters in Michigan are challenging the state's legislative map, arguing that current legislative maps keep black voters from having adequate representation in the legislature. A state judge ruled in September that Florida redistricting plan supported by Governor DeSantis is prohibited from being used for any future U.S. congressional elections because it imposes on the voting rights of black voters. The ruling in Arkansas came in a case in which Arkansas and NAACP and others have sought to get the state house districts redrawn. It's not the only such challenge that hasn't succeeded, at least not yet. North Carolina could become a more Republican-leaning state under newly drawn political districts the legislature passed last month. The U.S. Supreme Court signaled that last month the GOP's hold on South Carolina district may remain despite a significant number of black voters claiming that they were treated unfairly during redistricting. For much of the half of the century, courts have assumed that a provision of the Voting Rights Act known as Section 2 is privately enforceable. A deeper look has revealed that this assumption rests on flimsy footings, that Judge Strauss wrote in his opinion in the Arkansas case. This decision by the Arkansas Appellate Court is ill-advised and cannot stand and should be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, said Representative Stephen Harsford, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, said of Arkansas's ruling. Congress must act to protect the voting rights of black voters and voters of color. So, yeah, it's pretty disturbing that this is the route, like, given into the context of, like, what they plan should a Republican administration come in 2024, given, like, all this talk about how they plan to essentially take over, like, the bureaucracy, and they plan to basically make all of these offices, like the Department of Justice, just a bunch of yes men, a world where you as a minority cannot file a lawsuit because your rights your voting rights are being trampled on, but it has to come through the Justice Department, the same Justice Department that in this hypothetical upside down world is being controlled by the Republicans, which they will not file a lawsuit on your behalf. Because they're going to say, well, that's just, we don't see any violations, so why would we file a lawsuit on your behalf? Is a pretty dystopic and bleak thought. No, not as I would say, not good, not great. So, yeah, phenomenal stuff, folks. Phenomenal stuff. All right, folks, I got to get going. Tomorrow we have to go over this story. So I'm going to save this one. But we definitely have to go over this story. But I don't have time. I've always been a fan of term limits, but I also realize why some peeps have been in their position for so long in order to maintain a massive, well-oiled machine. Like any country, we need people that have been there for multiple years. It's like a normal business. Yeah, that's not what I would use, but at some point they need to retire and pass the torch. I certainly don't want to be the one that makes that decision, though. Yeah, I've kind of softened on the whole term limit stuff. All right, folks, I got to get going. Folks, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. I appreciate all of you guys being here. I appreciate all the biddies. I appreciate the follows. Thank you. A couple of shout outs. As you see there, if you guys have a second, please follow twitch.tv/carpetpacks. Please follow twitch.tv/AlioShare. Join the Discord. We are going to try, we're going to try our best to make something happen this Saturday. If you want to know and keep up with the channel, that's also a good way. The Discord is more organized now. So yeah, just join the Discord, and if anything, you always just get updates on what's going on in the channel anyways. Yeah, movie night Saturday sometime. Yeah, I'm thinking like in the evening. But we'll see. Be well, Memo. Thank you so much. I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you guys, everybody. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hasser, for keeping the chat chill. I appreciate all of you guys. Y'all come back now, you hear? Yes, that's right. Spread the word far and wide. We'll be back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Bring a friend. Bring a friend. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love y'all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.